You're listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. Join us as we explore new frontiers in consciousness, science, and evolution. And now here's your host, Karen Curry Parker.
There's more to life than our day-to-day existence. We are the infinite parts of an evolving intelligence seeking to express itself through us. Jewish tradition teaches that babies in the womb are all-knowing. They know the history and the story of the universe. But just before they are born, an angel thumps them on the top of their lips, making a tiny dent and causing them to forget all that they know. It is the process of living our lives that help us remember who we truly are. Our life is a spiral outward, expressing, experiencing, being that causes us to slowly, sometimes very slowly, remember all that we knew before we were born. People who have journeyed to the edge of life often come back with stories that help us deepen our understanding of who we really are and why we're really here. Sometimes it takes a cataclysmic separation from our human condition to bring us literally and figuratively back to the light. But we don't need to die to remember. We are light beings with the capacity to create and see beyond the limitations of our human experience, and certainly, maybe now more than ever, we need to pierce the veil of the illusion of our human lives and extend beyond, into a realm of infinite potential, and begin to create here, in this dimension, a world of sustainable peace and sustainable resources. PMH Atwater is one of the original researchers in the field of near-death studies, having begun her work in 1978. Today, her contribution to the field is considered to be one of the best. Some of her findings have even been verified in clinical studies, among them the prospective study conducted in Holland and published in Lancet Medical Journal, which is a big deal. The Big Book of Near-Death Experiences brings the field up to date globally and was featured in an online version of Newsweek magazine. She's an international speaker and has been a guest on numerous television shows, including Geraldo, Regis and Kathy Lee, Larry King Live, Sally Jesse Raphael, and Entertainment Tonight. Dr. Atwater's books have been translated into over 12 languages. Near-Death Experiences, the rest of the story, completes 33 years doing near-death research combined with the work from a previous decade investigating altered and mystical states, psychic phenomenon, and the transformational process. Her book, Future Memory, has been updated and reissued in January of 2013 and continues her exploration of consciousness itself, with the format of the book being like that of a labyrinth. And we're going to talk about the format of her even newer book and how completely interesting and powerful and fifth dimensional it is. But this particular book, Future Memory, is like a labyrinth, and it's meant to be read as you would if you were actually walking the site of a labyrinth, with the intention of not only to give you powerful information, but to raise an individual and your consciousness. Her new book, which sometimes I feel like I don't have the words for this book because it's one of these books that you take into the essence of who you are and it transcends language. Her new book, called A Manual for Developing Humans, is a book that she was actually told to write during one of her own near-death experiences. And it wasn't until recently that she was informed that now is the time to share the material that's in this powerful book with the world. Welcome, Dr. Atwater. I cannot wait to talk to you about this book. So
good, yay. And I can't wait to participate. This is great.
Oh, good. So the first thing that really, let's start with some of your background information. You were told you actually had 3 near-death experiences kind of in sequence to each other.
My dear, I had 3 in 3 months.
Wow.
So I look back and I call it the heavenly sledgehammer effect.
So during the sledgehammer process, you were given information about what it is that you are here to do, and you were given some pretty concrete, detailed information about what you need to share with the world. Can you give us a little bit of background on what happened to you and how did this create the information for this book that you're sharing with us?
My dear, I was raped. And then on January 2nd, 1977, I miscarried. That was followed by a great deal of hemorrhaging. The second day, 2 days later, that's January 4, 1977, I had major thrombosis that dislodged in the right thigh vein, followed by the worst case of phlebitis the specialists had ever heard of, let alone seen. And then on March 29, the third month, I had a complete, total, I was gone. I was dead. And no one yet today can find out or be sure exactly what killed me. They think, well, maybe it was a heart attack. They don't know for sure. And later that fall, so we're speaking here September, October, I had 3 relapses, one of which was total adrenal failure. I was working at the time with a blood pressure reading of 60/60, which means I wasn't doing so good. Often when we talk about near-death experiences, people forget that most of them come from violence or trauma. So you've got a body to take care of. You're not just lost in other worlds and have these great, wonderful angels around you. My dear, you got a body to rebuild. And I was, one of those people that I had to relearn crawling, standing, walking, climbing stairs, telling the difference between left and right, to be able to see properly, hear properly, and rebuild all my belief systems. And when I came back, I was not fully back. I want to insert here that most near-death experiencers, if they had an intense experience, are not fully back. It takes weeks. You're still over there. I did not recognize my children. I didn't know what a newspaper was. I had no idea what food was in a kitchen. I had no idea of soap, bed covers. I did not recognize any of it. It just, I was still over there. I really was. And so for me, coming back involved classes and classes and classes and just the determination to re-identify the world, re-identify myself, and to be able to function properly. For a while there, the only logical phrase I could say was, God is. I knew that was the truth. So I would chant it by the hour. I had to re-identify not only myself, but what is anger? What is fear? What are pots and pans? What's food? What's relationships? I had to re-identify everything. I even went as far, this is comical now, but I even went as far as to send it off to all the major makers of pots and pans, get their manufacturing specs and metallurgical reports. Then I sent them to a lab and had them tested. And only in that manner would I decide what pots and pans I would have. And I took all my pots and pans that I had at the time, threw them away, and got different ones. I did the same thing with soap. I did the same thing with the sheets you put on your bed. I did the same thing with absolutely everything. I had to learn what the earth plane is, what a human being is, what a body is, what money is, relationships, mother, father, children. I had to relearn everything from scratch. And you're going to love this. In the relearning process, I'm saying to myself, I'm coming back from death, and I'm saying to myself, you mean I have to come back and use the toilet again? I don't want to do that. Oh, yes, you come back to the full human body with all its accoutrements.
Well, I find that story especially amusing because as you and I had shared before we started our call here, I have 5 biological children, and I started reading your early books about children because my third child, who came to me actually before he was even conceived, he told me he was coming, and I wasn't counting on that, but he did. He was a nonverbal child. He did not speak until he was 4 years of age. And there wasn't any reason why he didn't, other than I think he just really didn't want to, even though we took him to all kinds of therapies. And he used to stand in front of doorways, like a sliding glass door. And this was actually what inspired me to start looking at your work. He was so frustrated about, what? You mean I have to use my hands? You could just see that this thing on his face was like, what the heck? This is stupid. And so,
I relate to him 100%. You got to live in this world. Are you kidding?
He's still kind of angry, but he's mastered it a lot better now. So while you were going through this reacclimation to the earthly plane, you also, during this time, got a lot of information about what's up on the planet, including the information for this new book that you have that's all about how to become human, right? Or how to be a better human.
Real human.
A real human.
I think we need to sort of back up here a little bit and go back to my third near-death experience. It was very long and complex. I really, truly feel that I was at the center point of creation itself. I saw how creation worked. And while I was seeing that, while I was participating in that, a voice spoke. I'm sorry about my throat. I don't know why it's doing this. But anyway, this voice, I called it the voice like none other. Because of my previous work with the esoteric and the metaphysical and the spiritual, I was acquainted with angel voices, guides and guardians, all this kind of thing. I'd never run across a voice like this, ever. It was so huge, so large. I can't describe this voice except to call it the voice like none other. And it spoke to me and was very specific. It said, and I quote, "Test revelation. You are to do the research. 1 book for each death." Then it showed me what was to be in each of these books, but not how to do it. And book number 1, it never named. So I have no idea what book that was. I suspect it was my first big book, Coming Back to Life, which is now still available over at Amazon.com. The second book was Future Memory. And it showed me how to do it. Later on, when I was ready to do it, it came back, showed me how to do it. Every sentence, every paragraph, every page of that book is part of the math I used to create the labyrinth format. It is a real labyrinth. You read through it like you walk through a sight labyrinth. And the purpose is to raise your consciousness up to the next highest octave possible for you. So the book is a brain changer. Yes, it's about creation. Yes, it's about the whats and whys of the world. But specifically for you as an individual, it's a brain changer. It's like a psychotronic device. Then the third book was a manual for developing humans. Now, the manual was the first book I ever wrote. Way back, I don't know, 1979, it's the first book I ever wrote. And I sent it off for peer review. You'll love this. They all said the same thing. Everybody said the same. They said, the world is not ready yet for this book. Put it in a box. So I did. A very big box. So it was the death of a very good friend of mine, Robert Van de Castle. I think the greatest authority on dreams. He wrote Our Dreaming Mind, just an incredible person. He died, and I went to his memorial, and I was there early. I'm sitting in my car, And he manifested in the seat next to me and looked at me and started laughing. And he says, "I knew you'd come." And then he left. So I went inside, and the service is going on, and I'm on the right-hand side, third row, middle of the row, and I'm looking at the dais, and there's a very large photograph of Bob. And so partway through the service, Bob comes out of the photograph, comes right in my face, right next to my eyes. And he says, "It is time." Well, Bob knew about the book in the box. So I knew exactly what he meant. So as soon as the service was over, I went right home, opened that box. Now, bear in mind, this box has been unopened for about 38, maybe 39 years. So I'm opening it for the first time, and I tell you, the air just about kills you. Almost had to fumigate the place. I mean, it was awful. So finally got to the point where I could stand going through the material that's in there, and all the thought form drawings were in there. I thought to myself, this isn't half bad. So I made my commitment then to complete the manual. When I did that, the voice came back. And that's only 2 times that voice has ever been in my presence since I died, was to do future memory and then to do a manual for developing humans. And there's no way I could have done it without that voice. I mean, I had material, but what do you do with it? And so I had some of it I had to update a little bit. Other things seemed to me like should be included. And then this presence is twirling everything around. It cannot be written in the normal linear fashion. So the format then, it has 6 sections. Each section is divided into 3 parts to cover the conscious, subconscious, superconscious aspects. In other words, intellect, intuition, and knowing. You get it all, whole packages within whole packages. So the book then curves and goes in circles. It's not a regular linear read. It's called Fifth Dimensional. This is fifth. In the 5th dimension, all is revealed in tension rules. So that's what the manual does. It reveals everything at once to help you gain all of the basics in life. All of the little exercises, the narrations, the fun, the ideas, the thoughts about humanhood. Who is ever taught how to be a human being? You don't learn that in school. You certainly don't learn that from your parents. But yet in ancient times, the word Hu, H-U, was the sound and tone of God. Their understanding of human was God man, God woman. So if you are all you can be, this idea of being more spiritual, that's backward thinking. Be more of who you are. Be more fully human. That includes the spiritual, includes everything else. And if you do that, guess what? You're God in the making. I mean, it's so exciting to me. This idea of know thyself. The manual is an invitation for you and everybody else to do your own thinking, to take control of your own life, both its unfoldment and the responsibility that comes with that, and align yourself directly with your soul. So, hey, whoa, wow. Why not be all that you are? The only protection anybody ever has is know thyself. That's the greatest injunction from time immemorial. Know thyself. Be thyself. It's the only protection you've got. As the world changes, and it certainly is, go within, be yourself, know yourself. You'll be directed to where to go, what to do, how to do it.
I love this idea. I have been working in the spiritual community literally my entire adult life, and I have always argued that ascension and this whole idea of ascension is not really about quote unquote ascending and leaving, but it's about getting here and being here, and
Right.
that we are not effective, and also I don't think we even have fun if you're not actually here. So I want to talk about the thought forms, because I don't know. Have you seen the movie Arrival?
Yes.
And
Yes, I think it's one of the best movies.
Oh, well,
Everything.
as I was reading through the book, I kept thinking, I'm having the exact same experience I had when I saw the movie Arrival. I walked out of the theater after seeing that thinking, where am I? And tell me about these thought forms and how these came about, and how did you come to draw them, and what do they mean?
If you go back to the work of Edgar Cayce, The Sleeping Prophet, certainly one of the greatest psychics that ever lived, he was very specific and upfront. He said thoughts are things. They have mass. And if you think a thought, pretty soon after a while it begins to dissipate. But if you think it a lot, and again and again and again, that energy, then the form of that thought begins to thicken, and it begins to have more and more of an effect on your life and the life of others. So, the first time I did the book, way back when, the manual, I'm minding my own business, Karen. I'm just sitting in a room, and pretty soon these words and thoughts begin to come into play. I don't know if they came from me or if they came from the voice. I don't know where they came from, but they came, and as I heard them spoken, there were the form of these words began to reveal itself in the air. I just saw these forms come out in the air, and I just simply drew them. That's all. It's just pen and pencil, and that's it. I just simply drew them. There's 28 of them in the book. They're part of the text in that they help you to learn more about yourself. They help you to learn more about being a human being, living in the earth plane, what it takes to live here. So I didn't choose them. I mean, I do not claim authorship except for the drawing them. They just came, dear.
Well, and I just, I always think it's interesting to watch movies, particularly sci-fi, because I think, and even art, I think, always seems to reflect shifts in consciousness sometimes before we're sort of there on a cerebral level or on a cognitive level. And I found it so fascinating to see what, to me, those thought forms looking so familiar, as they seem to be in the movie Arrival. And I'm just wondering, you talk about fifth dimensional awareness, and people talk a lot about, quote unquote, the shift on the planet. Are we shifting in frequencies, and are we moving to a different vibrational frequency of awareness? And is that going to change us, or?
That's a big question. Well, I love and adore the movie Arrival in this sense, that it really shows us what encounters with other types of beings could be. Mm-hmm. This stuff that we've been getting all these years, the books people are writing, I don't think are all that real. Some of it's real to a point, but they're not all that real. The movie Arrival is 100% real because it's really showing us how any communication, whatever, could be made with another type of being. So I really recommend Arrival to anybody and everybody, not your latest UFO book, but rather the movie Arrival.
Well, I just want to say, I have to thank you, because when I read your book, when I walked out of Arrival, I was so sad because I thought, oh, darn it, I really want these beings to come now. They're so cool and sweet and beautiful, and I miss them already. And I opened up your book, and I'm going through these drawings, and I'm thinking, they're here. It's here. It's not gone, and I don't have to mourn the fact that we don't have this level of communication, that it's actually already sort of emerging in an interesting way on the planet, and that maybe the way that we connect will go beyond.
Especially when you read part 6 of the manual. that's when we get into the deeper parts. Where we headed. Remember, originally in the writing of the book, I sent it out for peer review. All of them. Every person, can you imagine this? Every person said the same thing. The world isn't ready for this. Put it in a box. And then Bob Van Castle, in his memorial for his own death, then comes out of his own photograph, comes to me and says, "It is time." So that effect on me is like a thunderstroke. And then when I came back and was looking at the manual itself, and made my commitment to finish it, I could then understand the what's and the whys, because the manual shows you how. Future memory gives you the what's and the whys. They're companion pieces, in other words. Future memory and a manual for developing humans, but it's the manual that gives you the how. How can you live this? How can you live this in a positive way, especially what's coming? We all know what's coming. I mean, you feel it all the time. You see it on the newsreels, on television, in your books and magazines. People are getting so angry and so stressed out and so difficult to even be with, much less for them to be with themselves. They're just a tremendous stress. And I know that stress is going to increase. I'm also an astrologer. Any astrologer on the planet knows what's coming. And, near-death experiencers talk about it. They get it on the other side, in death. So they're being warned. The warnings are all over. Not an end-of-the-world kind of thing at all, but rather an increase in stress and heat and disagreements. I want to first of all say that the age of Pisces, just about everybody knows about the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. Pisces hasn't left yet. Sorry. I hope I'm not bursting anybody's bubbles. It hasn't left yet. The age of Aquarius is coming in and is virtually here. So the two ages, these incredible ages, are on top of each other. So that it's that incredible overlap. It's called an overlap. So we've got an overlap of ages. And this overlap just magnifies, increases the stress. So we're getting way too much, way too soon. We can't go back historically and say, this is what it was like. So now we know what to do, because what it was like the last time this happened was 25,920 years ago. so there's very many people alive today who were alive then. Reincarnation, it could be, I don't know, but we don't have any direct authority that we can go to and say, how do we handle overlaps? And especially this one, because it's a changing of the cosmic clock. And it's a massive change. So coming back to little old world right now, what we can see around us is that things are getting tighter and more difficult, and yet easier in our own world, especially in the United States. I mean, hey, more people are employed. There's more money at foot around us. And pardon the sound, the people who mow our lawn are here, so there's nothing I can do about that. but you consider that background music. Anyway, we're feeling that stress more and more in our politics, in our lives, certainly with sex, certainly with the young kids today. Some people call them the millennials, but anyone born since 2001, I call the 911 kids. And they are decidedly different than the millennials, who started coming in about 1982. These kids, these young people, today's citizens, tomorrow's leaders, are looking at all of this in a very, very different way. You know, my book, Children of the Fifth World, really defines that. So what they're looking at, what they're seeing, is no jobs. Jobs for middle-aged and older people, maybe people in their 30s, but what about the young people? How do they get employed? And then on top of that, the stats came out a couple of weeks ago. See, what is it? It's like 80%, maybe somewhere between 60 to 80% of the young people today going for those new jobs, those first-time jobs, maybe even second jobs, are rejected. They're rejected because of drugs. Most of them have maybe marijuana in their system. You can't get a job if you're smoking marijuana. Sorry. Various other kinds of jobs. They're not being hired because they think it's cool to be on drugs. It's wonderful to take marijuana. Well, fine if you don't ever want to work. If you don't ever want a job. So we're seeing more and more of these discrepancies, and they're picking up. And we can't blame it all on Trump. Sorry, I know a lot of people love to do that. But it's not all Trump. It's the times that we're living in, the energy that's building up. I was one of the few people that was right when Trump won the election. I said, there's just no way Hillary can win. It's not possible. And I was right. Trump has the pattern that fits within the national pattern. He has it. Hillary did not. Whether you like Trump or not, and I don't especially like the man, but he's in the right place at the right time. Sorry, folks. He's the one to prepare us for what's coming between 2020 and 2024 in our own country, the United States of America. During that time, specifically the year 2022, the United States has a Pluto return. When I'm talking about a return, when you're born, whether you're a person or a country, you have then the drawing of the horoscope. Pluto in its orbit, going all the way around its orbit, it's a very long orbit, like 245 years, comes back to the place where it was when that birth occurred. So obviously people don't have Pluto returns. I mean, none of us live that long. At least not yet. But countries can have them. Mm-hmm. And the United States will have its Pluto return in 2022 because it is of such extreme power. I'm telling everybody, plan on a 4-year span. So 2020, through 2024. And by the way, all these dates and everything is in the manual for what's coming on after that. It's all in the manual. But that time frame, Pluto is historically, symbolically, and what we've been able to verify is a particular energy that is extreme. We look at Scorpios of the world, which, the ruling sign, the ruling planet is Pluto. But not necessarily just Scorpios of the world, just Pluto itself, Plutonian, Pluto, extreme, massive power. Now, that's for the good, and that's for the not so good. What that kind of energy does not understand is middle. Where people agree, that idea of a middle. There's no middle for Pluto. It's either extremely good or it's extremely not so good. No middle. So how do we handle something that doesn't have a middle, that doesn't have a place where we can stand together and share and talk things out? And again, that's why a manual for developing humans, because it shows you how. It teaches you how. It even shows you how to use your fingers, how to think, how to speak, exercise, acupressure, facelifts. And we have this notion that it's the body that we're exercising. Well, hey, how about exercising your face? Do the face as well as the rest of the body. You'll feel better. You'll look better. All of these kind of simple little things are in that manual that will enable you to be more, not only, fully human, but fully yourself. Again, going back to know thyself. This understanding that it is time. We need the manual for what's coming. People who give you all kinds of rules and regulations and ideas of how we can prosper and how we can do this and that with this kind of energy. Nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. Because, whatever you're told is going to change. So going back to time immemorial, the greatest protection anybody can ever have is to know thyself.
Beautiful.
That's what the manual does.
Beautiful. So the manual for developing humans is available on Amazon, as well as all of your other books. In fact, while we were talking, I just went and ordered a couple that I didn't have yet, so I'm looking forward to that delivery. Your website is pmhatwater.com, and if you go to PMH Atwater's website, you'll see that she has a special first aid kit for NDE sufferers. So she has
NDE after effects,
NDE after effects, and really important place for you to go if you're trying to figure out which pots and pans should I use now that I've come back from the dead, right?
It'll help you save your mind.
So I just want to, again, thank you, not just for this incredible new book, but also just for the legacy that you've created to help guide humanity to that powerful place of knowing themselves so that we can move through these shifts and changes from a protected and an aware place. And for all the work that you've done, not only for that, for me personally as a parent, as I said, one of my kids is probably alive because of you. Well,
I'm also a researcher of evolution. So I've done other studies on the evolution of the human race, specifically with children. So the new children and near-death experiences, then, children of the fifth world, beyond the indigo children. Let's get beyond that. Let's get beyond labels. So I've got a lot on children. My current project that I'm working on, besides telling the world about the manual, I've gone back now to look at those people who had a near-death experience between womb and the age of 5. Specifically going after the little kids, even if they had it inside the womb, during birth, and after birth. So I'm looking at preborns and newborns. And I'll tell you, those people who have near-death experiences during that time period are not like any other experiencer. Even an older child, a teenager, or an adult, regardless of their age, the little ones are different. And they go through things other experiencers do not. Mm-hmm. And I want to zero in on that, because I think I know what that is, but I want more data. Mm-hmm. And I touch on this in the new children and near-death experiences, because one of the things I've noticed with these little ones is they don't bond with their parents. They bond to the other side.
Oh, wow.
And that is big.
Well, I'm looking forward to that too. So,
well,
thank you. Okay, good. So thank you again so much for joining us. Again, www.pmhatwater.com.
Subscribe to my free monthly newsletter.
Yes, do that. Just subscribe to our free monthly newsletter, A Manual for Developing Humans. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Karen Curry Parker. And thank you for joining us on Quantum Conversations.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow.
Prophets and ancient visionaries have been foretelling a time of cataclysmic upheaval and the birth of a new era of humanity for thousands of years. The Hopi people have a prophecy that states that this vital time will not divide us, but unite us as a people of many colors who seek to rebuild the world and make it green again. The children born now are here to herald and build this new world. Children are the leading edge of human consciousness made manifest, and we need to listen carefully to the messages that they bring us. We are being asked collectively not to literally die, but to die to the old ways, the ways that separate us from each other, the ways that cause us to believe that somehow we are less than or more than others, ways that keep us from remembering our power to create in alignment with infinite possibilities. We need to listen carefully to those explorers who have gone to the edge of life to bring us back information to awaken us to the truth of who we really are. We need to remember our power to make the seemingly impossible a tangible, evolving part of our new emerging world. We need to listen to each other, to our children, and to our own deep inner wisdom, and fully access the knowledge that is waiting for us to activate us. It is in the embracing of our true selves that we will find the path to creating a world of sustainable peace. Are you ready to wake up and remember who you truly are? Please visit our Quantum Conversations Facebook page and get your free human design chart and report. You are way more powerful, lovable, worthy, and wise than maybe you realize. It is time for you to remember who you really are. I'm Karen Curry Parker. Thank you for being here on the planet right now, doing what you came here to do. We need you.
Thanks for listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. For more information, visit joyfulmission.com.